Hello dear viewers, and welcome back to A Walk to Work with Whittaker. Today I'm going to be talking about Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror by Nina Mativia. And don't forget, give me a like, share me, subscribe me. I want to get to 1,000 by the time we get to the finale this season. So, just finished watching Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror, and oh, that's more like it. If we had had another Orphan 55, I would have been very worried, but this was a full-blooded historical celebrity adventure and had a great pace, ripped along really well. I felt the regulars all had something to do within the story. Goran Vishnich as Nikola Tesla really captivated me. I thought he gave an excellent performance. In fact, the guest cast were all really good, and it's been something I've been thinking about this week with Orphan 55 having so many characters. You know, I know it's a disaster / horror movie last week, and you need to have lots of characters to up the body count. But Doctor Who often works so well when there's just 3 or 4 supporting cast, and that's what we see here. So we had Nikola Tesla, of course. We had Thomas Edison, Philip Glenister returning to the show. Very kind driver letting me cross. We had Hayley McGee playing Dorothy Skerritt, who is also a historically accurate figure. She was one of Tesla's very trusted secretaries and assistants. And we had also the return of Anjali Mohindra, who played Rani in the Sarah Jane Adventures as the Queen Skithra. Even Paul Casey, regular monster actor, gets his face on screen as Tesla's spy, if you like, the one with the camera, who then becomes one of the Skithra monsters. So we had a very strong guest cast, but a very small guest cast, so we could focus on them and get to know them a bit better. As I was saying, Nikola Tesla, really liked him. And I also like that the show doesn't sugarcoat that he didn't perhaps get the recognition he deserved during his life. And, you know, that's kind of a theme of Doctor Who's historical celebrity stories, reaching right the way back to Charles Dickens in The Unquiet Dead. Because Charles Dickens in The Unquiet Dead, story ends in a similar way, with the Doctor outlining to his companion then that Dickens is not going to have much longer to go, but will always live on through his work. Now, Tesla lived a fair while after the scope of this story, but similarly, his work lives on. And the funny thing is, even though the companions don't recognise Nikola Tesla, they recognise the name Tesla. They comment on the cars. And of course, Thomas Edison, they know. And there's kind of some commentary throughout the episode of how Edison is a better businessman and a better marketer, if you like, than Tesla. And, well, look at our modern world. The name Nikola Tesla, in sort of pop culture, if you like, received a big boost through Tesla cars and Elon Musk, whereas Thomas Edison is a name that has constantly been held up as a name of progress and development. So it's kind of weird. I think Orphan 55 had a more important message, but I think the commentary on our social world and what we know is better achieved here. Now, as for the story itself, traditional Doctor Who. We have monsters. The scorpions look great. The Skithra look absolutely wonderful. As for the Queen Skithra, I love the makeup job and I love Anjali's performance. I always thought she was wonderful in the Sarah Jane Adventures, and I think in bringing her back here, you know, they kind of fulfill the Patrick Troughton wish that he had to come back to Doctor Who as a monster and not tell anyone. You cannot, in my opinion, recognise Anjali under all that makeup, and I think it's such a wonderful thing. Of course, they've publicised that this is the return of Anjali Mohindra to the series. You couldn't get around that, and I wouldn't want them to ignore the Sarah Jane connection, but she just gives a bravura performance through that makeup. From the neck down, however, I just think she looks a bit too human. or a bit too humanoid, if you like, compared to everyone else. It does help with the tail, but we only ever see the tail as the CG thing when it's about to attack people. It'd just be nice to see it swaying around from time to time, but it just sort of pops up and goes back in, and pops up and goes back in. Look, it's a minor thing because the performance is so good, and she definitely still reads as alien with that magnificent headdress. But, yeah, it's a minor complaint. It's a minor complaint. All the stuff between Tesla and the Doctor is excellent. Jodie is just really bringing it every week this series, and just getting stronger and stronger. Her talking and working with Tesla is amazing. And in his younger days, Tesla was on record as espousing the power and intelligence of women. Slightly changed. What? Did I lose a headphone? Oh, I lost a headphone. And I'm now covering the camera. Bad technique. He slightly changed his views as he got older, but what we're seeing here is a younger Tesla at the height of his powers. And just him working with the Doctor is so joyful. And I also love the fact that we get, finally, I think for the first time, the really big TARDIS moment of someone absolutely looking in wonder. I felt that was slightly lacking last series. We don't get to see Edison enter the TARDIS, so instead that moment is given to Tesla. And I think that is absolutely the right decision. And the fact that Tesla looks on it in wonder and imagination, but is able to accept it by examining the scientific principle, it is such a strong demonstration of that character, and it gives us that magical moment that perhaps we didn't get last year. Really enjoyed that. The Doctor gets to be proactive, and we haven't always had this Doctor being proactive. And she goes up to the ship to save Yaz and Tesla. And there's a wonderful moment where Yaz just says really quietly to the Doctor, I'm much better now you're here. Yaz, again, gets stuff to do here. She is paired up with Tesla, and I love the fact, especially because she was accidentally disrespectful to him earlier, kind of treating him a bit like he was in a museum rather than an actual person. Yeah, I love the fact that she's then paired up with him and talks to him about inventing, and kind of respects his feelings a bit more and tries to understand where he's coming from. By pairing up our companions with the supporting cast, we do get more character development for everyone, and I think that's really successfully done here. Ryan and Graham are pushed a bit more into the background, but they're developing a real comedy duo between the two of them. You know, you had the bit with the gun, the death ray, you had Dorothy loading them up with equipment, and yeah, there's just some nice comedy there between the two of them. Now, of course, the death ray was never going to work, and that's kind of a feature here, that Tesla, he's a bit more of a theoretical scientist than necessarily a practical one, and that other people would go on and develop his ideas. Overall, I think it was just a really successful, enjoyable episode. And, it was so refreshing to get that. We are 3 for 4, in my opinion. 3 hits out of 4. In my opinion, for this series. I just missed the crossing, so I'm going to be here for a while. And yeah, it's making me feel really optimistic about the rest of the season. Series, you know what I mean. Yeah, it's hard for me to fault this episode. Certainly, it's not got the heavy-hitting message as last week. There was a bit of the monster design I didn't necessarily think worked, but you know, still read as monster, and the Scorpion, the Skithra CG of the full Skithra looked absolutely amazing. Something I really liked about the confrontation as well is that, you know, the Doctor obviously goes for the teleport bracelet thing, and that is absolutely fine. You kind of think, oh, well, that's a bit obvious. But the whole point is that it's obvious. She wants the Skithra to say, hey, what have you got in your hand? That is a classic Doctor move. You know, it's hiding in plain sight, what she wants to do. But the Doctor doesn't destroy the ship with the energy. The whole thing is to scare them off. But Jodie gets a bit nasty there, you know, talking about how they're scavengers and a little bit useless and they don't invent anything for themselves. And it's a criticism of people who just take other people's ideas instead of making their own. You know, there is a message there for us. And I really, really appreciated that. Watching that. Big trucks coming by. Big trucks. A lot of construction work around here. And I'm going to get out of the way of this truck. But, yeah, I'm so glad we're kind of back on track with an action-adventure story, a bit like the first 2 episodes, but that is educational because it taught me things I didn't know about Tesla. It's made me more interested in looking up his work, whether, you know, his ideas worked or not. He was still an immense intellect, and he fostered intellect in others. The comparison to Edison, where, you know, even The Simpsons, 20 years ago, was talking about how Edison didn't necessarily have all of his own ideas, but he still presented as an intelligent character. You know, we could have gone down the path of having, an Edison who just stole other people's ideas and was a buffoon, but instead he is intelligent and he does contribute to the end of the story as well. It's just a really, really strong episode with clear-cut villains, a clear moral tale, because the Skithra at first aren't threatening the Earth. They're just threatening to use Tesla's genius, and that is enough to outrage the Doctor. And then when it becomes a massive threat to both Yaz, Tesla, and the world at large, the Doctor's like, absolutely not having it. Yeah, a really good, strong, quality episode. If the rest of the year is like this, I am going to be so chuffed. I really hope it is. This is the kind of baseline quality I want for Doctor Who. And actually, saying baseline might sound a bit insulting because this was just really excellent and captivating and interesting right from the start. And I was so, so happy to watch it. Anyway, I am at work, so I am going to sign off. Like, share, and subscribe, please. 1,000 would be amazing. But again, thank you so much for watching.